From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I entertain a motion to approve the in-kind services by the Health Department and approve any further grant amendments regarding the awarded funds from the Massachusetts Association of Health Board Public Health Excellent Grant for Shared Services in the amount of $300,000 annually for the remainder of the fiscal year through January 30th, 2033.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Motion's in order.
Could I add something?
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just found this out today, so I didn't have a chance to share. I found out from the health agent, Jessica Horseman, that this is 6 towns, including
Yes.
Taunton and North Attleboro, that are involved, and it's happening all over the state, where they're taking 5 or 6 towns in clusters. And that, and this is, well, obviously over a number of years. They're gonna eventually hire through this grant, a grant coordinator, and they're gonna hire three different positions to share among the 6 towns. They're gonna have a community health educator, a health inspector, and a nurse available. So there's a lot for this grant, I think.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah, there was some piece of business that had come around explaining some of this stuff, and which is phenomenal. All right, any other comments or concerns or questions? All right, seeing none, we can vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. For the docket of April 19th, 2022, I entertain a motion to transfer $612 from account 1133-1000-511-000, budget and administration salaries, to account 113-1000-532-015, budget administration staff development, to reimburse a new clerical employee for mass certified public purchasing official course.
Second.
All right, motion's in order. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's much needed things that we all do to advance our knowledge. Any questions, concerns?
Nope.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $900 from the account 1000-359-000, undesignated fund balance cash, free cash, general government, to account 154-31000-524-230, veterans maintenance of vehicles to replace a windshield on a vehicle used for veteran transport.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Basically, they thought that the vehicles were still insured for glass, and found out that they, due to the age, didn't have it. So unfortunately, we had to pay the $900, and this is where this is coming from. I think it's a bit excessive, $900 for a windshield.
What kind of vehicle was it?
It's the Prius, Toyota Prius.
It could be.
Yeah, I think so. Unless it's some special glass, but it just seems excessive to me. But
Might have the heater in it.
yeah.
It does sound expensive.
Yeah. All right. Motion's in order. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
No. It's got to be done.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Where the heck am I? I think. Sorry. 2, 3. For some reason, I think I'm missing something.
I'll give you that sheet if you need it.
I just I thought I had more than 3.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
They're on this sheet.
Do you want my copy?
Oh, I think I got it right here. Sorry. All right, from the docket of April 19th, 2022, I move to approve the following reappointment for the position and for the term as indicated. Rosa Lopes, Cultural Council, 3-year term, expires February 2025.
Second.
Motion is in order. Any comments? This is just a reappointment. We have lucky Rosa's being around for another 3 years. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right. I move, for the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to approve the generous donation to the Veterans Office of $40 in Stop and Shop gift cards from an anonymous donor as part of a random act of kindness to celebrate Gus and honor World Down Syndrome Day in March.
Second.
Second.
All right, motion's in order. I mean, obviously, this is a wonderful thing. We always love these, and thank you to anonymous donor for the random act of kindness. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, that concludes the business of Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion, all right. Well, that, I'm sorry. That was second, sorry. All right. We're done.
I can't stop till 6:30, right?
Oh, is that the case? I don't know if we could, oh, yeah, probably can't.
I just want to keep everybody here longer tonight.
I don't blame you.
What time do you have me for? 6:30?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, I'd like to call Public Works Committee to order at 6:30. I have 4 motions. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $11,537 from account 1000-359000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1420100-582513 Public Works Building Improvements to build a new foreman's office at 101 Lamb Street.
Second.
So this is for, they're moving the foreman and they're moving Kathy from here to Lamb Street. So they're building a new foreman's office and moving Kathy to the current foreman's office.
Which Kathy?
Oh my God, now you're gonna put me in a spot.
What?
Yeah.
Why can't I think of her last
It's not
name?
important, I just...
Yes.
Oh, Rigo, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah.
They're moving her to make room over here and,
She's moving down to where the gas station building is, that little building out.
yeah, where the current foreman's office is now.
That's out by the gas pump, little private office.
Is it? I
And
thought
then
that was,
They're, just for information, there's a storage area above the regular offices
Yep.
downstairs. That's where they're adding the offices. is
right,
up there.
the foreman's office.
Yeah.
The new one, yeah. So that's what this is for. So this, if you saw the backup documents, there's a breakdown of all the materials. They're gonna do the work themselves.
Good use of the space. It's actually, just a catch-all.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions or anything? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $26,412.20 from 2514-599000 DPU TNC other financing sources to Fund 2702-499-000 sidewalk other financing sources to install a new sidewalk on Brown Street from Mendon Road to 425 Brown Street.
Second.
So this is in conjunction with the next motion. So this fund is, it's called Department of Public Utilities. So this is like our sidewalk fund, if you've ever heard people talk about the sidewalk fund.
We always had a fund that builders put money into.
Yep.
Rather than put sidewalks in the subdivision.
If they decide to
We
forego.
would take the money and put it in a fund.
Yep.
And it was designed to put sidewalks in and around schools where they were needed.
And this is also funds that come from what they call DPU. It's like Ubers, the money we get from people that use Uber and stuff, which is extremely minimal from what I'm told, but that's also another source that goes into this fund. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So the second one is the same, for the same sidewalks, it's just coming out of their sidewalk fund. So I intend, from the docket of April 19, 2022, I intend a motion to appropriate $150,000 from 850-6599000 sidewalk other financing uses to Fund 2702-499-000 sidewalk other financing sources to also fund the Brown Street sidewalk.
Second.
So this is the same thing, it's just transferring, the 26 out of that one and using this. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $500,000 from account 6000-35900 wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to Fund 3230 sand filter improvements to repair 3 failing sand filters.
Second.
So this is needed. They're failing. They've been rebuilt numerous times. They're decades old. They're not going to last. This is for to meet the NPDES discharge permit, which is National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. So it's an EPA guideline that we need to be in compliance with. And from my understanding, these were rebuilt all the way back to the 80s. So
Where are these filters located, Laura?
where are they located, Peter? Hold on, let me see what else I have down here for notes. So they were last rebuilt 16 years ago. It's the replacement of the media and under drain system. Without these needed repairs, the treatment plant risks violating the NPDES permit. It's priority 1 in our 2027 capital improvements, but since it's failing in the under drain system, it's the under drain system, that's where they're located.
I think it's, the only one I knew that actually had those sand filters were Wade and Railroad.
Therefore, to fund the, and I can find out exactly.
Oh, I was curious.
Before next
They
week.
need it, they need it. I got no question, but.
I
That's
thought it
all.
was at the plant, the wastewater plant, because this is wastewater,
Oh,
not
that's
water.
wastewater.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so, it's,
Wastewater.
yeah. Any other?
Sorry, I thought it was.
That's all right. But anyway, the location in the plant is in the under drain system. Does anybody else have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And that's all I have tonight. I'd like to call for an adjournment at 6:36.
Second.
We are adjourned at 6:30. Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned at 6:36. Thank you.
Land Use Committee to order at 6:45. So we have 3 items to talk about today. First one is from the docket of April 5th, 2022. I move to approve the mayor's request to accept the generous donation to the city of Attleboro of $1,303,600 from the Federal Transit Administration to be transferred to the Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit Authority, GATRA, related to transportation projects improving the transit-oriented development district. Second. Thank you. Motion's in order. And I'd like to call the Economic Development Director, Catherine Fierk, to talk about this item. Oh, Catherine.
Thank you, Councilor Kobus. My name is Catherine Fierk. I'm Economic Development Director for the new faces in the room, though I think both of you know me by now. I'm also going to be calling on Gary Arasian, the Director of Planning and Development, to speak to Part B of this grant. But in brief, when One Wall Street closed, the development project near our train station, there was a residual federal interest in the property. What that means is federal funds were used to acquire the property back in the day. And once federal funds are used for an acquisition, the federal government in perpetuity owns a chunk of it, whatever percentage that they paid for the property up front. In this case, that was 80% of the purchase price of the property. Now, the FTA got those funds and they said, we don't actually want them or need them. So if you can identify some eligible transit-related improvements around your train station, we're happy to consider those for a grant. So this was a long time ago this started. So between former Budget Director Barry Lacasse, Gary Arasian, the mayor, myself, several other folks, Rick Correa from the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority, we identified a series of projects and brought those to the FTA in order to discuss them. They said, you know, the couple of projects that we're going to present tonight are both eligible projects, go forth and prosper. One caveat. Because of the history of the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority, as regards the grant that was used to acquire the property, they were removed as the grantee entity during the course of that project, and GATRA took over as the fiduciary agent of FTA funds. That was a long time ago, and it was in the past, but because that was done, the FTA identified GATRA as the only eligible grantee for the funds. So this project is a little bit wonky, but basically the FTA is willing to fund Attleboro-identified, Attleboro-sponsored, Attleboro-improving projects, but only in the form of a grant to GATRA. So that's why the memo reads a little bit wonky. I'm happy to answer any questions about the structure, but just to briefly go through the 2 projects that we identified. One is a much smaller project, and that one is a study, a $250,000 study on a potential future garage at the site of the Transit-Oriented Development District. This study is not only going to look into the architectural design of a garage and the engineering behind it, it's also going to address the feasibility of it, some potential operating models, as well as the economic impact analysis. Obviously, there are some considerations when you're putting a parking structure on an MBTA-owned surface lot. So this is going to review 2 different sites. One is the MBTA surface lot, as you know it now, right by the bus loops. The other one is down on ARA land. That way, you don't have to deal with the headaches of the MBTA. There's a lot less legal muss and fuss. However, you're removing a developable pad. Obviously, that's going to hurt. We just want to know how much. So this is a study that's going to prepare us for the final tiny but arduous pieces of negotiation with the MBTA. We still have a really solid chance of spinning that land out for development by the end of this calendar year. So this grant helps us to get to that point. I'm going to let Gary Arasian speak to Part B of the project, then we're happy to answer any. Oh, I guess I can answer questions now.
I guess I don't have to raise my hand. So first question is, how much of this money is for that study?
The study alone is the smallest piece of it. It's only $250,000. That's a $200,000 grant, $50,000 match from the city.
Got it. And the totals, so for this motion I read, it was $1.3 million. The next motion that we're going to talk about is for $325,000.
Yep, and those are cumulative sums.
Okay.
So the second phase of the project is much more expensive, but it provides a much more valuable capital asset.
So is the total amount we're looking to spend $1.6 million, adding those two together? Okay, just wanted to clarify that. And the other thing you were talking about, this was tied to the sale of 1 Wall Street.
Yes.
Just for clarity, where is that? Is that Renaissance Station North?
No, it's Renaissance Station South. 1 Wall Street is the white building by our train station.
Got it.
So it's
Okay.
been completely sold. The funds long ago transferred to the ARA as an agent, holding them for the FTA, but the FTA doesn't actually want them back.
Got it. And Councilor Conti.
So my confusion is the intertwining of GATRA with MBTA and ARA on the land, and I don't think I understand how your feasibility is going to travel forward. Not that I matter, it's a wonderful gift on $1.3 million, but did I hear you correctly that there's a chance that the garage could be on MBTA land or the garage could be on ARA land? Or both?
It could be both. That's probably the least likely scenario, because then you're removing part of a development pad on Riverfront Drive while still dealing with all the headaches of the MBTA. So that's probably the least likely scenario. We did actually have an option 3 that we were considering for that, but I don't think that it's probably going to be the ultimate answer. As regards your question as to the feasibility of the MBTA allowing us to build the structure on their land, I agree there are a lot of challenges with it. The largest challenge is that when you build something on ARA land and improve property values past a certain extent, it kicks into motion a requirement that they have to bring that station entirely up to code in terms of accessibility. Our station is woefully inadequate, woefully neglected. It would probably cost in excess of $40 million for the MBTA to do those upgrades. However, if they were willing to fold that land, that surface lot, into an existing memorandum of agreement that we're working on with them right now regarding a couple, and I say we, referring to the ARA, I work with them very closely. But we're currently discussing the transfer of a few parcel fragments between the MBTA and the ARA, cleaning up the property lines in preparation for development. And there's a possibility that we would be able to, include the surface lot that we need to build the structure on within those negotiations. That way it would be one legal instrument covering everything that we need. That could potentially get around that requirement on the MBTA and make them more conducive to the idea. Option B would be to have a developer that has more clout, as we might say, with the MBTA to get in there and to do the upgrades themselves. That has been done, I believe, in Newton. And so it's a possibility, but it's something that's a little more speculative and scares me a little more.
But there's no way to move forward with a garage parking structure in the transit-oriented district and avoid the MBTA altogether.
No, there's no way to do anything in that district without having some conversation with the MBTA. But they're very supportive partners so long as budget isn't involved. They've been incredibly open and given us a ton of time recently. So I do want to emphasize that our partnership is very strong at the moment with the MBTA.
Well, they're broke, I can understand why they're concerned about the finances.
Yep.
So, does this $1.3 million grant take you closer to a reality of having a parking garage? And how much farther along? You've got the $250 for the feasibility study. What's the rest of the money going to be used for?
Well, we haven't gotten into that. It's not going to be for the garage itself. I would like Gary to have a chance to tell you about Part B of the project, because I think that would probably answer a lot of preliminary questions. Then we can both field any other questions.
And before we get to that, Councilor Bennett, did you have a question?
I did. I just had a question about, you said that the funds have to be used for a GATRA project. Would building the garage on the ARA land complicate the ownership there if now we're tying GATRA into this legally?
None of the land is owned by GATRA. They're purely acting in a fiduciary role in this situation.
Understood. Okay, so they're the only ones that can approve use of the funds?
Well, they're the
essentially.
only ones that the FTA can grant the funds to.
Okay. Understood.
And then one more question before we hand it off to Gary is, I think it was 2 years ago, we approved, it was a TIF area, was it DIF, the District
District Improvement
Incentive
Financing.
Financing, is that what it's called? Okay, for the TOD to sort of set aside money for
For the
this sort of stuff.
infrastructure. Exactly. And those are funds that we can pull from, along with MassWorks infrastructure grants and other sources, in order to construct this garage ultimately.
What about for the $300,000, the matching portion of this?
We don't have funds in our diff that would equal that amount yet. It's a cumulative fund, so it builds up as the TOD is developed. You only get 75% of new value within the footprint of the TOD goes into that fund. So as of now, it's just a portion of the One Wall Street increment that we're capturing. It's not enough to serve as a match for this.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions for Catherine before we hand it over to Gary?
I'm zipping it.
All right. Gary, thank you for coming out tonight.
Of course. For the record, my name is Gary Arazian, the city's Director of Planning and Development. And it's one project that Catherine and I are partnering on a lot of things, but this is more getting into the forensics. The other piece of the project, keeping up or maintaining the theme of a transit-oriented development and trying to make it a more walkable community, the Part B of the project would be to create another pedestrian bridge and pedestrian path and pedestrian bridge over the 10 Mile River that would connect into Robbins Park.
Which park, Gary? Which park?
Judith Robbins Park?
Oh, the Robbins Park. Yes.
Yeah, so much like if you recall, when we developed the Dumas Walkway from County Street to Wall Street, and its purpose, again, on this theme is to create a transit-oriented development where we're advocating for pedestrian walkways, making it a more walkable community, less reliance on the private automobile. We could walk from Balfour River, walk across the street, go over the 10 Mile River, walk to Wall Street, walk over to the Judith Robbins Park, and then you can make your way up to the commuter rail station. This would be another walkway for that. A big piece of, well, I should say a big piece, a significant amount of funds we're going to pay is on the planning and public charrette, public participation process. So I want to reassure the city council, as I have to the mayor, that while we're asking for this money from the council to match it, my office hasn't done any work on this other than biding our time to appear before the council. So we haven't had any preliminary drawings or anything to that effect. I want to make sure that when we design this, we'll have invitations out, however we choose to do that, to involve the public as much as we can in the design of that bridge. We've got an enormous permitting process to go through. We're looking at one way right now, we're looking at East 4th Street. All the work would be within the right-of-way. Not that I don't expect any. There won't be any takings, sliver takings, or anything like that. It would be just right out from County Street, down East 4th Street, and then go into to the river. How they would design the abutments, all that, I haven't spent a penny on any of that. So I don't want to be presumptuous in any way, because typically I know the council wants to have some graphics. I don't have anything to that effect. It's all something we've all been thinking about in the abstract. This goes back 3 to 4 years, and we're on the cusp of that, and we've got $1.3 million hanging there, so we certainly would want to be able to get those funds.
Makes sense to me. Any questions?
I
Councilor Conti?
don't think I fully understand where the pedestrian bridge is going to be, and I don't need to. Because what you're trying to do is what we've been doing for a very long time in that area, trying to create the walkways. So in this 1.3 million, Gary, how much of that is into that Part B that you're talking about? The rest of it?
Yeah, the rest of it, sure. The 250 plus whatever 20%, that's going to go for Catherine's project. The balance of that would go toward this bridge. And it's a pedestrian bridge. I want to emphasize that. It's not a vehicular bridge.
Yep.
It's a pedestrian bridge. It would straddle the 10 Mile River. It would probably have some level of opulence to it. It won't just be a flat bridge, just with railings. Again, Just in addition to making it a more walkable community, downtown, we also want to make it a beautiful bridge, but certainly not garish, nothing over the top. Again, there's only so much money to go around. One might think that's a lot of money, but if you really think about some of the smaller bridges we've been working on in the city, particularly the walkway, that we did, the Dumas walkway, that almost pushed the $2 million when we did that. And there was no city money in that. I'm proud to say we got that all through the Gateway grant. Another smaller project, a small bridge project, is the Peters Bridge, the Peters Avenue. You see how small that is, but again, it's pretty expensive. The design, new standards, stormwater management, Army Corps permits, Chapter 91 licenses, those get expensive and they're drawn out. I mean, a Chapter 91 license, that could sometimes get drawn out as much as 9 months. And there's a back and forth with those. So unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the balance of it would all go to the bridge, but we've accounted for every penny. Fortunately, with this one, there's no demolition involved, because one of the other bridges I was actually thinking about was the one on Riverbank Road, the existing bridge that you could go from Riverbank Road across over the Balfour Riverwalk. That was probably another $300,000 of construction, because we had to build the entire switchback. That included demolition. So we opted to go with the one up County Street. And all the sidewalks are, they're all going to be handicap accessible. We've got the crosswalks, those the ones that we started with my department on County Street, right across from the Hong Kong Treasures, with those, with the blinking lights, with flashers. Those have really caught on in the city. I'm glad to see that. So, they'll have those at the crosswalks as safe as we can, handicap access points, all the work will be in the right of way. We were working with the Public Works Department on this. Of course, with Catherine and I, we work shoulder on shoulder on almost all of these things. So I'm going to be happy that we're going to deliver a really fine product for this too. And at some point, once we move along, I'll be happy to come back, as I always say, to present some interim drawings and plans to the municipal council, just to get your feedback if you can't make any of the planning charrettes or anything. Or even if you do and you want me to make a presentation, I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion from the rest of the council? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item, from the docket of April 5th, 2022, I move to appropriate $325,900 from account 1000-359000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to fund 3569 TOD GATRA as the FDA grant requires matching funds.
Second.
Motion's in order. This is the matching portion in order to receive the $1.3 million that we just talked about. Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And then finally, from the docket of March 15th, 2022, I move to appropriate the following public way. The mayor hereby requests your honorable body to to amend the revised ordinance of the city of Attleboro as amended to lay out Ashton Court as a public way, length of 1,102.67 feet from station 0 to station 11 plus 02.67, and accept said way in any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all as shown on a plan and profile entitled Road Acceptance Plan of Ashton Court, dated December 16th, 2020, revised through January 27, 2021, prepared by Byron J. Andrews, RLS, and David A. Russo, RPE, which plan and profile have been deemed satisfactory to the Superintendent of Public Works.
Second.
Motion is in order. Public hearing for this was on the 5th, and if I remember correctly, we didn't have anybody show up for that. Somebody correct me if that's incorrect. So I suggest we move forward with it. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Move to adjourn at 7:05.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:05.
I'd like to call the municipal order meeting to order right now at 7:05. Please join me for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Second?
Roll call vote? Okay, we'll have roll call vote beginning. The reason I want to suspend the rules is we have Gary, who's going to be coming back talking at the committee of the whole. So we'll take Gary after the public hearings. Then we'll get into the rest of the business of the meeting. Okay. We'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Present?
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Point of order.
Yes,
it's-
this is a yes.
Thank you, Ty.
Thank you. Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are now operating under suspended rules. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the first public hearing?
Sir. Public hearing for a loan. Ordered that $5,200,000 is appropriated for the design, permitting, bidding, construction, and construction oversight costs associated with the replacement of the ozone system at the West Street Treatment Plant, located at 1296 West Street, Attleboro, Massachusetts, including all costs incidental or related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $5,200,000 under Section 7(1) of Chapter 44 of the General Laws, or any other enabling authority, and that the mayor is authorized to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out this project.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor?
Good evening. Courtney Allen, Superintendent of the Water Department. I'd like to start actually by giving you a little bit of background on the ozone system. For those of you that actually haven't had a tour of the plant, or it's been a while since you've been out. The system was originally installed when the plant was constructed in the mid-1990s. The original reason for the installation was to control taste and odors from pumping surface water from Orr's Pond. We really don't have taste and odor issues, but we do use the system for a lot of other things. Removal of organics is huge. This lowers our chlorine demand. So lower THM formation. We have a THM problem at the other plant. We do not at West Street because of the ozone system running. Oxidation of iron. Orr's Pond is very high in iron. Iron is removed in the pre-treatment process with the ozone system, and it makes the rest of the process run really better. Allows filtration to work better, improves the filter run times. It also destroys bacteria and viruses in the raw water. It takes out a good percentage of them. So this also makes the chlorination process more effective, and again, even further lowers the THMs. What we mostly use the ozone system for is manganese removal. We have seasonal manganese in Orr's Pond. So the system, it kind of goes away in the winter unless we have a major snow melt midwinter. But the manganese returns every spring. And at the point that it does, we start operating the ozone system to remove it, at which point we can't. And then we switch over to Manchester for the summer. And then once the manganese levels in Orr's come back down, we switch back for the fall. Manganese, it's always naturally in the pond. In the winter, basically it stays in a solid state. It sinks to the bottom and it just kind of stays there. When the water warms up in the spring, the water chemistry changes the pond. We call it turning over. Basically it mixes and the manganese dissolves and it ends up throughout the entire level of the pond. That's how it starts to come in. So the reason I'm talking so much about manganese, it's not regulated per se. What most of us here are probably most familiar with manganese is it stains. It causes like rust stains, blackish purple stains at over 0.05 parts per million, which isn't very much. But again, it's not regulated, but Massachusetts and EPA have set a health advisory for manganese. And I think we're all familiar with health advisories from the THMs. 0.3 parts per million for a lifetime, so that would be your 70 years, 2 liters a day for your general population. 1 part per million or more, EPA and Massachusetts both recommend that you don't drink it for any longer than 10 days. The big vulnerable population for manganese is actually formula-fed infants that are less than a year old. For them, EPA in Massachusetts recommend that they don't drink the water at any greater than 0.3 parts per million for longer than 10 days. So basically, the health advisory, again, they're not regulating. We put notifications if we hit these levels in our annual report, and the state and the EPA aren't going to come and assess fines against us, but it's not a healthy thing for our infants. It's not a healthy thing for our older people. Studies with manganese, with infant exposure have shown that babies exposed to high levels of manganese grow up with reduced IQ and a much greater likelihood of ADHD. But for our older population, it can cause tremors, difficulty walking, and facial spasms and that sort of thing. So that is our big purpose for running the ozone system. I can get in a little bit to how it works. Basically, if you've been out to the site, if you go in the back, we have a big, huge oxygen tank. It's about 8,000 gallons. That's liquid oxygen. So we evaporate it outside, we make it into a gas, and we draw it into the plant, where we feed it through the ozone generators. From there, it's run through high voltage, and it takes elemental oxygen, which is O2, and which is very stable, sitting in that tank, and it makes it into O3, which is ozone. It's really unstable, it's really reactive. So basically, it's going to attack anything that's in the water. So basically, it takes the manganese and it rusts it. It makes it back into a solid so that the pretreatment process can grab it and settle it down so it doesn't make it through the plant. So again, we use this to treat Orr's Pond. In an ideal world, we would use Orr's Pond all year because it rains and Orr's Pond refills and Manchester does not. The manganese is kind of the limiting factor here. And the limiting factor to the manganese treatment is our current ozone system. When we produce the ozone off of the liquid oxygen, we can only make about 6% of that oxygen into ozone. It's not super efficient. The newer systems can do 10 to 15%, which obviously would treat more manganese. To give you an example, if we get a single day spike of 2 parts per million, our ozone system, when it's working, can handle that. If we hit 1 part per million for maybe a week, that's about what the system can take, and then we have to switch to the other reservoir. To give you some idea what we're up against, the average summer levels in Orr's Pond can be anywhere from 6 to 8 parts per million. So, I mean, you're looking at dozens of times that health advisory limit. We've seen levels as high as 18 or higher. So the equipment that we have there now, it's more than at the end of its useful life. We've had multiple repairs on the ozone feed line between the generators and where it's fed into the raw water. We actually have one right now that we started to dig a leak in the fall, and then the ground froze. So we had to fill it in because we don't need the system in the winter, and we're digging it back up next week, chasing this leak. This is about the 4th leak in probably 7 or 8 years. When We have an issue with the generators or the electrical panels, the controllers. Because of the age of the system, we have to call someone in from Georgia to fix it. That's the closest vendor we found. So we have to fly them, we have to put them up, we have to wait for them, which isn't huge, isn't the best way to go about it when we need this to treat manganese. So again, the shape of the system is we have had failures. Hopefully we fix this feed line next week and the generators will power up. They don't always. When they do, they don't necessarily meet that 6% design anymore, so we might get 4% ozone instead. So they're old, they're tired. Most of it is new. I'm sorry, not new. Most of it is original to the plant. We've had rebuilds in the injection and booster system, but the only things in there that are relatively new and probably the newest is the monitoring equipment, the ambient oxygen, the ambient ozone monitors in case we have a leak. And those were done as part of the SCADA upgrade in 2014. So that's the newest we have there. So basically everything needs to go.
Courtney, you taking any questions? Vice President Corbis, then Councilor Conti.
Thank you. 3 quick questions. One, is this the only ozone system that we have, or are there multiple? Is this the only one that we have in the city?
It is. The way the plant is set up, and this is everything across the West Street plant, we have redundancy. So every system we have, you'll have, if you walk through the high lift room, we have 4 high lift pumps. We typically run 2 at a time, possibly 3. The ozone system, we have 2 generators. There's spare booster pumps. There are spare trains in the pretreatment. However, there's spares with the injection system as well. The feed lines, it's all one line. So
Okay.
It doesn't run in parallel. So we start having problems there and we're completely down.
Got it. And then, so I remember in the past, when you talk about the ozone system, I immediately think of the TTHMs, and I remember that there was a time where we were running the ozone system far more often in order to try to keep those down, and so that makes sense. The other question is, so you mentioned the capacity of maybe if we hit a spike of 0.02 parts per million, that this can handle that. With the new system, what's that capacity look like for, will it be able to handle more?
The capacity of the new systems is actually a little higher. I brought a visitor. I brought Nate McLaughlin, who works with Woodard and Capern, who is actually, that's who we've been working with the studies for the raw water and looking at new systems. It is, actually, if Nate wants to come up. We'll back up.
And Nate, if we can just have your name and address for the record, please.
Address as well?
Yeah.
Sure. Nate McLaughlin, Woodard and Kern, and I live in Hamden, Maine.
All right.
Thanks for making the trek.
You're welcome. So the scope of the work is to replace the capacity that is there existing. As Courtney said, with the new modern generators, your percent by weight concentration goes up. So where the current ozone generator is 6% on its good day, the new generators are more like 10 to 15%. So what we would look to do is, since we're going to be exceeding that existing capacity just within the technology of the newer systems, look at how we might be able to extend the life of the West Street plant in those shoulder seasons where they normally have to shut down, actually extend that life by removing more of that manganese than they're currently able to. So replace current capacity at a minimum, but the opportunity to increase capacity.
Got it. That makes sense. And yeah, just the cost to run this, is the new one more efficient and cheaper to run, or is it kind of the same?
Yeah, all modern equipment is cheaper to run than 30-year-old equipment. So you'll get energy efficiencies, you'll get oxygen usage efficiencies. We haven't gotten so far as to look at life cycle cost analysis and what's going to be displaced by the capital cost that you're going to incur to do this work. But really, your existing system is at the end of its useful life. And so you're in a situation where you have to replace it soon before you experience a catastrophic failure.
Got it. That concludes my questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think either one of you can answer my two questions. Question one is, our system was designed to have an ozone component right from the beginning. Is that not correct?
Yes, it was.
And while there are alternative ways to achieve the things that the ozone does, they're not compatible with our system the way it's built and may not perform as well as ozone does. Is that correct?
It is correct. The plant itself is already set up, laid out for the ozone system. There's other chemicals that could oxidize manganese and oxidize iron. They're not going to do the same job on organics. We've looked at another chemical. We looked at a permanganate feed, and it doesn't handle these other issues. And also what ends up happening with permanganate, if you have water fluctuate during rainstorms and things like that, it can lead to potential overfeeds and pink water. It's not the best thing either.
So bottom line is that plant, when it was designed in the early 1990s, they decided they were going to use this ozone component, and the technology has not evolved to a point where, unless you're building a whole new plant, you might choose some other way. Is that correct?
You might choose another way. After working with ozone, it's the way I would choose to get equivalent removals of what we're looking at. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, you'd be looking at membrane, reverse osmosis membranes. It's very expensive. You're dealing with a brine, you're dealing with a lot of waste. You're probably dealing with higher energy use. So that's probably your closest comparison.
So my second question was, and you may not be able to answer, is that do any of the home filtration systems, such as like a charcoal system, trap manganese?
It depends. If manganese is in its solid state, yes. But what we have out there in the pond in the summer, it's basically almost all dissolved. So there's nothing for the filter itself to grab onto, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So what the system does, it makes it into a solid so we can actually grab it at the plant. If you had, a reverse osmosis system in your home, which is horrifically expensive to run, that would remove manganese.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you very much. Courtney, first of all, your expertise is always appreciated, but every time you come, I get a little bit scared because the manganese, just a quick question as an aside. So if the state's not kind of regulating right now, do you anticipate at some point that might change?
It very well might. We probably 5 or 6 years ago, the state had all of the departments do baseline monitoring for manganese. And those departments that were over, I believe it was the 0.3 at the time, basically are on routine monitoring for it. We were under the 0.3, and the reason we were is because the ozone system was operational during sampling.
All right. And two questions related to the request. And forgive me if you answered this, but what is the expected life expectancy of the investment that we're making, number one? And does it, this may be very naive, but is there a maintenance contract, or is it your department will be able to maintain this new system?
Currently what we have, best guess on life cycle, when we started having issues with this one, we've been into repairs probably since about age 20 on that, so if it gives you some idea. For maintenance contracts for a newer system, they're out there for sure. The generators themselves, our maintenance staff actually maintains them. They maintain the pumps, they maintain the destruct units. Basically, if you overfeed a little bit, we have a way to destroy it at the end so we don't put it into the atmosphere. Our maintenance staff maintains all of that. When you get into the electrical controls and things like that, we actually have to hire somebody out.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you. Have a good
All right.
night. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak against? Or anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Okay. Seeing none, Council Conti, do you see me? Public hearing open.
I see no reason to keep the public hearing open.
Okay, good. Declare that public hearing closed. And Madam Clerk, at your convenience, please read the notice for the second public hearing.
Second public hearing regarding proposed amendments to sections 12-3.7 of the revised ordinances, Capern Park Zoo admission fees and policies.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor?
Hello, everyone. I'm Derek Corsi, Superintendent of Park and Forestry. Nice to see you all. So we spoke about this in 2020, about raising the prices. We thought it was a bad idea considering the times. But now it is something that we need to address again. Our proposal is basically raising the current fees $1 across the board, and then restructuring our membership fees to make them a little easier to understand for, people that are looking to purchase a membership. The main reason for doing this is because, as all of you probably know, the inflation costs are also hitting the zoo. We buy food for the animals just as you buy food at the supermarket. We have to pay the electric bill. We have to pay for shipping on goods, and all of that is directly hitting the zoo in a negative way. And unfortunately, just like any other business, we have to pass that cost on to the customer. We've tried to absorb as much as we can, but unfortunately, we're at the breaking point now that we need to raise the price in order to continue to maintain the zoo as it is, and also bring new improvements to the zoo in the future. The price increase still will have us be the lowest price zoo in the area. It'll align us pretty much directly with Buttonwood Zoo, which is a similar size zoo, and it's substantially less than Roger Williams and Franklin Park. So right now, Franklin Park, an adult admission is $22.95, where we would be at $10. Roger Williams is fairly expensive too. Yeah, they're $20 to get into Roger Williams as well. So we're basically half the price. We are half the size of the zoo, but the value is still there for anyone looking to come visit the zoo and enjoy it with the family.
Any questions? Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you very much. Derek, thanks for coming in. So this is probably not going to be a popular question, but your increases are modest, and I guess my question would be, in light of our current situation and unknown future, are they enough? Have you projected out for the worst case scenarios?
We've projected out, and right now they are enough, and they would be sustainable, but I can't, right now on the course that we're going, yes, it works, but if things go worse than what they are, then it might be something we have to address again, but I don't want to, raise it up more than we have to right now. So I think this is the best course of action. It's actually a little more than what I originally addressed in 2020 to kind of combat that. But I think right now it puts us in line with a lot of the other zoos, and will also cover our needs right now as a zoo. And I think restructuring the memberships, right now our memberships are, family-oriented memberships where you have to be a member of, a family. When if we restructure it this way, I could just buy a membership with 2 additional passes, and I could bring my nephews or my friends' kids or something like that. So I think it'll make it more appetizing for someone to purchase a membership rather than the family structure that we have right now.
Thank you, Derek.
Any other questions? Derek, so how's attendance been since really some of the COVID restrictions started to lighten up again?
It's the best it's been in 5 years, believe it or not.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's been really good.
the demand is there.
Yeah, the demand is there.
I appreciate Councilor DeSimone's question. And to add to that, how long do you think this is sustainable for?
Things stay steady. It's sustainable for a while. The last time we changed prices was 2016. It looks like it's like an every 5 to 6 year thing that we do. We're on year number 6 now. So if things go accordingly and everything kind of normalizes, we're looking at maybe 5 years down the road doing this again. And hopefully by that time, there's a lot more new things that people will be able to enjoy at the zoo. So it'll make the price increase more amenable to them saying, okay, I'm going to pay a little more, but there's so much more here to do. So that's kind of the grand plan with all of this.
And last question I have is, how does this tie into the strategic plan that we were talking about just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, so the strategic plan is kind of the first domino that goes into effect with the zoo. What the strategic plan will do is it addresses current state of the zoo, where we want to see the zoo grow from here, come up with a game plan of what steps we can take to grow the zoo. And the beauty of the strategic plan is they'll work with state grants in order to fund a lot of these projects and make them actually realistic things. It's not something that looks pretty on paper and will never happen. A lot of this stuff will actually be implemented at some point in the future.
And just to clarify my question a bit more, if I may, is does the strategic plan take a look at the fee structure and make suggestions?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it has a whole financial element to it. Ways that the zoo can generate money in different avenues rather than what we're doing right now, and it kind of interplays with all of those different aspects, which is definitely something that we could utilize and need, to be honest with you.
Perfect. Thank you. Any additional questions? Thanks, Derek.
All right,
Thank you.
Nice to see some of your new faces.
And do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Councilor DeSimone, do you see a reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not, thank you.
All right, thank you. We will declare that public hearing closed. Madam Clerk, if you could read the notice for the third public hearing, please.
Third public hearing this evening is to discuss the proposed amendment to the following ordinance. Section 10-4.18 of the ordinances be amended to establish a process for the removal and modification of permanent speed humps.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. We will continue this to a future date.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I almost called you Vice President Jackson. Could you please read the notice for the fourth public hearing?
Certainly will. Fourth public hearing this evening to address the request to install a new pole, 40 by C, across from pole 5173 on Pine Street from the Massachusetts Electric Company.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Please approach the podium.
Hello, Al Galvin, Design Engineer, National Grid Electric.
Morning.
Morning.
Afternoon, I guess.
Morning.
It's been a long day. Long day.
Threw me off.
But you played along, so it's appreciated.
So this is a new pole to basically reroute the lines that are out there now to meet the proper clearances. They had found when the customer at 46 Pine Street was doing some work at the home, they went out to assess, and the lines and the poles were a couple of feet too close per code. So they decided to replace the old poles out there, get some more stable poles in that area, that block. It's probably 3 or 4 poles being replaced. And put the tap going down Pine off of Dunham on the opposite side of where it is currently.
Okay.
So it moves everything over, opens up some clearance for the homes there, the street, in that regard. And then it also, they set it up with the new transformers as well, so it provides a switching possibility if there are outages and things like that. They can shut it down for repair and pick up the power so people are not out for very long.
Okay, great. Any questions?
Well, that we'd like to hear. I just have quick, same material, wood poles?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be 40, a couple of them are 50 footers, a couple of 45 footers, but yeah,
Great.
relatively the same setup.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Councilor Dolan, do you see a reason to keep this?
I do
Oh,
not.
actually, I'm sorry, we're all set. Thank you. We got to see if there's anyone else.
Oh, yeah, all right, so let's see if there's anybody else. And then I'll answer your question.
There you go. You're all set right now, my friend. Yep, thanks for coming
Thank you.
down.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? See, sometimes you just make assumptions. Councilor Dolan, does he need to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Okay, we'll declare that closed as well.
Thank you.
And if you Can move to the reading of the last public hearing.
The last public hearing for this evening is a public hearing to discuss the proposed amendment to Ordinance 10-4.11, isolated stop signs by adding westbound drivers on Jewel Avenue at Hawthorne Street.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Council Bennett, you see you need to keep this open.
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. We will declare that public hearing closed as well. That concludes the public hearings for tonight, and I would entertain a motion to go into committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you.
This is a voice vote.
It's voice.
Okay. This is a voice vote, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are now in committee of the whole. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the council on any matter of city business?
Municipal Council, thank you very, very much for accommodating my request and allowing me to speak before you tonight. I'm here tonight to talk to you about zoning.
All right. Check.
I am not asking the council tonight. I am not asking the council tonight for any type of approval. I'm not looking for any consent. I'm not looking for a thumbs up. I'm not looking for a straw poll or anything. I'm here tonight to debrief you on a matter that's regarding zoning and housing. There's a requirement that I need to fulfill in the next couple of weeks. One of those requirements or a prerequisite, be it as a debriefing of some legislation before the council, which has to do with Chapter 40A, the Zoning Act. As councils will recall, in January of 2021, the legislature passed the Economic Development Bill, and the governor signed that into law, I believe, on about mid-January of 2021. I think it was the 14th or 15th of 2021. And what that amendment did is, among many things about the Economic Development Bill, it included an amendment to Chapter 48, the Zoning Act, and it introduced Section 3A. Section 3A, I'm just going to jump back for a second, is multifamily zoning requirement for MBTA communities. Along with that legislation that was passed, it was incumbent upon the DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, to also develop guidelines to help the communities begin to understand the new legislation and to take steps toward adopting or amending either your local bylaws or your local ordinances. These guidelines were made available to the public in December 15th of 2021. And as all the planners and communities found out, that we thought that was going to be the only draft, what happened was that the draft regulations actually created more questions than answers about the legislation. So those draft guidelines are still out there. There are a number of planners that have spoken actually in opposition. I haven't. And I'll explain to you why I haven't done so. But the reason why I'm here before the Municipal Council is on May 2nd, every community that is an MBTA community, which I'll explain to you in a minute, has to file a form that does one of two things. First, even though we haven't approached the Municipal Council to amend our local zoning ordinance, what DHCD wants is an understanding that we're still in compliance with the legislation, and we have to file a form by May 2nd to demonstrate to the state that we're still paying attention to the guidelines, that we're working on them, and that although the guidelines haven't been finalized, that we're keeping track of those. So I have to file a form by May 2nd to do that. The other reason why I need to file this form by May 2nd is I have to appear as, or in any other community that's an MBTA station community, that their municipal council or their board of selectmen have been debriefed on the draft guidelines. So here I am on the 19th. Hopefully I could get through this with you tonight, so that within the next couple of weeks, I can file that form with DHCD, demonstrating that we're still in compliance and that you have been debriefed. So there are, according to the regulations, 175 MBTA communities. And what does that mean? An MBTA community, by definition, is whether or not each community or that community has an MBTA rail transit in its downtown, has a bus service, a regional bus service, or abuts such a community. So Attleboro, as you know, has 2, and we have Gatra. So we are an MBTA community. What the legislation requires is that every MBTA community has to, and I'm going to promise you I'm not going to get too much in the weeds tonight, because we're going to get into the weeds in about 6 months from now when I come back with the Planning Board and Zoning Board. But I have to kind of get into some detail with you, but I'm going to try not to make this too complicated. Every community has to adopt at least one zoning district within a half-mile radius of the MBTA station, a zoning district that allows up to 15 dwelling units per acre as a matter of right. Right? So we will come back, we will show you a 1 mile radius, a 1 mile diameter map of downtown Attleboro from the train station here. Inside of that 1/2 mile radius, we have to propose at least one district. That one district has to have at least 50 acres of real estate in it. That's going to be zoned multifamily. That will accommodate residential development for families and is not age restricted. Some communities are going to do a ground-based zoning district. As of right now, I'm kind of favoring an overlay district, and I'll explain later why I prefer an overlay district. At least 50% of that 50-acre area has to be within the half-mile radius. So if it's 51 and 49, 49% of it could be outside the district, 51% of it could be within the district. What I found great about it, or good about it, is that it could also be mixed use. It doesn't have to be just residential. So if there's any type of enticement with all the work we're doing with TOD and mixed use development in and around the central business zoning district in TOD, this zoning amendment allows for mixed use as well. There are some sticks to this, though. If a community chooses not to adopt or amended zoning bylaw or its zoning amendment, what's the downside to that? Well, it's financial. It's financial. A community, an MBTA community, or there are 175 of them in the Commonwealth right now, if a community does not adopt our amended zoning ordinance for this multifamily zoning requirement, we would not be eligible for Mass Works grants. That's not good. If you remember when we developed Riverfront Drive from Wall Street to Olive Street, all that work we did, probably the most complicated project I've ever worked on in my career with the city of Attleboro. That was all financed. I'm going to say 90% of that was financed by a Mass Works grant. That would have never materialized had we not done that. So we would not be eligible, I should say we, a community that doesn't amend its ordinance would not be eligible for Mass Works grant. It would also not be eligible for the Housing Choice Initiative. Housing Choice Initiative is part of the legislators' one-stop shopping. Before, we had a plethora of grant applications all over the place. What we've now done at the state level is they've all conglomerated this all on the one platform. It is phenomenal. But it's not phenomenal if you don't adopt the ordinance, so we would not be eligible for any type of grants, a wide variety of grants that Catherine's already applied for, and there's about a half a dozen that are coming on the horizon that my department's going to be applying for, that we're going to be coming before the municipal council. There's another grant program called Local Capital Projects Funds, LCPF. This is under Section 2EEEE, Chapter 29. Be quite frank with you, I tried to look it up before the public hearing on this session, and I'm not sure what that's about, but I will certainly find out for you. The draft guidelines, and I'm going to go over those kind of quickly with you tonight, but if it's okay with the council, can I pass these forward to Virginia, so you'll have an opportunity to read over these? But
Yeah,
I
I
want to go
think
over
that
these
makes sense.
one at a time with you. I'll also provide you the copy of the map that goes with the guidelines. The first point, I think there's about 15 points. The first point, it explains, it gives an overview of Section 3A, what this amendment's about. Section 2 talks about definitions, and there are a lot of definitions, and hence the draft guidelines. The definitions go on for about 2 pages. The general principles of the compliance. Again, it's 15 dwelling units per acre. To give you some perspective, what does that mean to Attleboro? Currently, our densest zoning district is General Residence A, allows up to 10 dwelling units per acre, but it's by special permit. This would allow a 50% increase and allow it by right.
This is awkward. Wrong number.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gary.
It's okay.
Car warranty.
Gary, didn't you say 50?
A 50-acre, the district that we need to come up with has to be a size of 50 acres. To give you some perspective,
The density in that 50 acres would be,
So, Council Conchi, if I may, just where there's so much that's still, part of this, I want to reiterate what Gary said. Part of what the expectations are from the state is that he's presenting this and just making us aware.
debrief you
There'll be an
on
opportunity.
the overview.
Yeah,
Yes.
there'll be no, it's not that. I'm not trying to silence anyone, just, there's so much that we just want to make sure that we give
I'll
Gary
go through
the
the presentation.
opportunity.
You're more than welcome to ask me the questions. I came as prepared as I can. I gave you some perspective on zoning density. I said GRA currently 10 dwelling units per acre by special permit. This would be 15 dwelling units per acre as a matter of right, so it's a 50% increase. You asked about 50 acres. This district, at least one district, has to be 50 acres in size. There are some optics that go along with that. For example, what if a community can't come up with one district, 50 acres? It allows for multiple districts because it says at least one. So you can have multiple districts. I'm not going to say n number, let's say 3 or 4, smaller than 50 acres. But when you cut across the line, cumulatively, it has to allow for 15 dwelling units per acre as a matter of right. To give you some perspective on sheer size, the central business zoning district is 59.1 acres. 59.1 acres. This new zoning district under 3A is 50 acres. It's almost the size of the central business zoning district. I don't know if that's where you're going with it, but good point. So almost the same size. So 50 acres, that's a decent size of real estate. It's a housing production proposal from the governor's office.
Sure.
So this talks about determining reasonable size, because as I said, you might not be able to create one district, 50 acres, at least 51% of which would be inside that radius. The determining of the size goes on for about 2 pages. It talks about minimum gross density, which I said to use 15 dwelling units per acre. It has to be suitable, as I said earlier, for families and children. There's no age restriction. Point 8 talks about location of districts. Again, I told you it's not really relevant where along that radius you put it. One good bit of news I did get is the state is providing grant funds for local planning departments to hire a consultant to help us do some of the legwork, because this is going to be a heavy lift trying to determine not necessarily vacant parcels, because one of the questions I have, and it wasn't a matter of being in opposition, it was a matter of being inquisitive, is whether or not tear downs of existing dwellings to create vacant space toward this 50 is going to be allowed. So let's say a developer has half an acre, but it's half of it's vacant, or two parcels, one is vacant, one isn't vacant, is whether or not he or she would be allowed to come under this ordinance, if you may, by knocking down a two-family, because that helps to increase the cost of housing. So I put that question out there. I haven't got it answered yet. Again, it wasn't a matter of trying to poke a hole into it. It's just a matter of trying to get some information back. So the location of districts, which I went over again, it was an oversimplification, but we went over that. Determination of compliance. We're going to have to submit our proposal, I believe, to DHCD, even though we'll pass the litmus test with our city solicitor. They also want to see, typically, as you know, in a town, before a town can adopt an ordinance, it has to go through the Attorney General's office. In the city, it's not that way. We don't have to go through the AG's office, but the DHCD does want to take a look at our proposed ordinance before it's enacted, before we come for a public hearing. Metrics, attestation, housing suitable for families, I discussed that. It talks about, then finally point 11, talks about effective non-compliance, which I told you it's punitive, but it's financial. But Mass Works I hold dear to my heart, so we have to, I think it's good public policy to adopt this when we come before the City Council. We'll have a very good proposed ordinance to present to you. We'll give you what the build-outs would be. But at this point, like I said, there's nothing for you to approve. I needed to bring this to your attention. It is a housing production plan coming from the top down. Even though 40A3, Section 3A exists, there isn't anything compulsory for a community to adopt anything right now. We have to show what they call complicity by having this debriefing with you before May 2nd. And I have to fill out, I think it's about a 15 question form, and file that by May 2nd, just to let them know we're on top of the ball and moving it forward.
Great. All right, well, Gary, we'll look
I will
forward.
provide you with a copy of the debriefing. I'm sorry. Yeah, the brief and a copy of the map. And what I'll also provide you with, which I didn't want to belabor too much, a list of frequently asked questions. I think you'll find those fascinating. So I think in those terms of zoning, I'm sure most of the councilors do too, but there were some really interesting questions. But I think those more are along the lines of the smaller communities that don't have the kind of landmass that, like for example, the city of Attleboro. We're very fortunate that, the forefathers of our community with the zoning ordinance looked that far ahead and have zoning for multifamily. A lot of communities don't, and that's why they get Chapter 40Bs often. So, and again, that's not an editorial, good, bad, or indifferent. 40B is a 40B is a 40B. But I don't think we're in bad shape, but it is a difference in land use policy to increase your density by 50% and allow it by right. The good news, though, on that side, if a little concerned about giving up authority or review, we did a top site plan review by the planning board. So while the review of the project would not be by special permit through the Board of Appeals, the planning board, however, would review it as a major site plan review for the project, so there's still a review process. And again, this will all be explained in detail when we reappear before the municipal council. I'm figuring about 6 months from now.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a multi-step approach, so just having the information with the FAQs, I think, will help a lot, and, yeah, thanks for coming down, Gary,
I'll
thanks
get
for...
those to Virginia tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be a big help, and then, there'll be plenty of time for questions and understanding. I think this isn't even fully baked yet, as you said, it's gonna take 6 months, zoning planning, in front of us as well, so, looking forward to it, Gary.
Thank you again for having me at Committee
you.
Hall. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
night.
Gary. And is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on any matter of city business?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address?
Just name's fine.
Philip Katsalas, live in South Attleboro. I put a short letter together which I'd like to read to you folks. And I'll get started and then we'll go from there. I'll first pick this up. Okay. To Attleboro City Council from Philip Katsalas, 23 Ryan's Crossing, April 18th. I'm here tonight to get clarification on the record $13.9 million surplus reported in the Sun Chronicle on April 7th. I would like to know the source of this large amount of money. From taxpayers, indirect disbursement from the state or federal governments? Is the amount accurate? If so, are the citizens of Attleboro paying taxes and fees that are not commensurate with city revenues? Does the surplus include any revenue earmarked for COVID relief? Should there be an ample surplus, are there not other priorities or commitments that should be funded prior to any new projects? I'm particularly concerned about the proposed Performing Arts Pavilion at Highland Park. Seems to me there have been several city council discussions regarding capital expenditures. Police and fire vehicles, firehouses, police station, a senior center, library, and zoo modernization and accreditation come to mind. What about speed bumps, road repairs, downtown revitalization, and additional parking? It is my understanding that the new Attleboro High School will serve as a true community-wide asset in which groups can make full use of its various amenities. In fact, its auditorium can be used year-round. An outdoor pavilion is limited to roughly 5.5 months per year, and I figured May, June, July, August, September, maybe a little bit of April, maybe a little bit of October. Should the many capital expenses be covered by the surplus, perhaps there can be a direct rebate to the taxpayers or an indirect taxpayer benefit via a contribution to the costs associated with the new high school. Lastly, I served on the ad hoc Highlands Park Steering Committee. We discussed several ideas as to the future uses of Highland Park. 3 public hearings were held. We had discussions and non-binding votes on approximately 29 potential uses of the park. Voting was held over 2 sessions. The hatch shell type structure was voted on with 14 other items at the first voting meeting. It barely passed by a 5-4 margin. Other items with overwhelmingly support were 1, transition of the clubhouse to a banquet facility, 9-0 in favor. Second was a community garden, again 9-0 vote. Third, future fireworks location, passed on an 8-1 vote. And 4, flower fields / and/or tulip garden, that one passed 9-0. Suggestions not thought to be appropriate uses of the park were affordable housing, leasing of the clubhouse, a dog park, farmers market location, and a golf driving range. Albeit a relatively small sample of public hearing feedback and committee discussions, I do not believe there is large support for funds to construct an outdoor performance center, nor its future upkeep costs. Let's complete the many projects we have started and those already determined to be necessary. Any large surplus should be applied to these projects or earmarked for property tax relief. Funds for an outdoor performing arts center should come from grants and private donations. Perhaps donations can be raised in a similar way that the high school stadium was brought to fruition. Respectfully, Philip Gonzalez.
Thank you, sir. I would ask if you leave a copy of the letter, which you read with our administrative assistant.
Okay.
But do you have a, okay. And then we'll also get a copy of the letter to the administration as well.
Okay, can I give you this?
Yeah, I'll take it and then I'll bring it into her.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming down tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I entertain a motion to arise from committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we will now go on to the reading of the mayor's communication.
April 19th, 2022. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding items that the Attleboro Public Schools would like to declare as surplus. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition. Copies in your packets. Old laminating machines from Hyman Fine Elementary School that has no nominal value.
City property and claims, please.
It has come to my attention that the following reappointments were not sworn in within the appropriate time. Therefore, I respectfully resubmit for confirmation by your honorable body the following reappointments. Kurt Wheaton, Council on Aging, 4-year term. Paul Aspetan, Traffic Study Commission, 3-year term. Stephen J. Nunes, Assistant Inspector of Gas Piping and Gas Appliance, 3-year term.
Personal Veterans Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Library Director Amy Realinger regarding the donation of 3 printers to the Attleboro Public Library from Sensata Technologies with an estimated value of $1,500. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packet.
City property and claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Health Department Outreach Worker Case Manager Tisha Silva regarding the donation of $435 in gift cards from the Holiday Spirit Committee. These cards will be offered by the Health Department's outreach worker to individuals and families in need. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City property and claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Council on Aging, Melissa Tucker, regarding the donation of $325 in gift cards from the Holiday Spirit Committee. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City property and claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Veteran Services, Ben Quell, regarding the donation of $275 in Stop and Shop gift cards and $125 in Market Basket gift cards from the Holiday Spirit Committee. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packet.
Personal Veterans and Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Veteran Services, Ben Quell, regarding the donation of $30 in CVS gift cards, $30 in Cumberland Farms gift cards, and $30 in Stop and Shop gift cards from Edith Meehan. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
Thank you, Edith. And Personnel, Veterans and Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould regarding the need for funds to purchase a new office chair and other needed office supplies. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $250 from account 1135100-530116, accounting actuarially services, to account 1135100-542010, accounting office supplies. Copies in your packets.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need for funds to replace bedding throughout the fire department. Due to ongoing problems with the supply chain, the vendor will not guarantee pricing for more than 24 hours. Therefore, this request includes a 10% contingency. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $5,742 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1220100-558-325 fire furniture. Copies in your packet.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration Jeremy Stoll regarding the need for funds for 2 employees in the Attleboro Municipal Clerks Association eligible for the sick pay incentive associated with the most recent contract. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $900 from account 1124-1000-578350 Citywide Reserve Fund for Labor Negotiations to account 1240100-5153030 Building Inspection Sick Pay Incentive.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Water, Courtney Allen, regarding the need for funds for the Wading River yield analysis. The Water Management Act withdrawal permit for the Taunton River Basin requires the Water Department submit a scope of work to Mass DEP for a firm yield analysis of the Wading River source. Once the scope is approved by Mass DEP, the Water Department is required to complete the analysis within 1 year. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $125,000 from account 6100-359-000 Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to account 6100-530176 Water Enterprise Fund firm yield analysis. Copies in your packets.
Thank you. Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need to replenish funds that have been transferred internally to cover the cost for contractual earned time payment that will be paid out to an employee that has retired. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $72,978.28 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1220100-511000 fire salaries and wages. Copies in your packet.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need to replenish funds that have been transferred internally to cover the cost for contractual earned time payment that will be paid out to an employee that has resigned. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $1,209.43 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1220100-511-000 fire salaries and wages. Copies in your packets.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully request your honorable body to appropriate $150 from account 359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1124-1000-578020 citywide bills from previous years in order to pay a previous year's invoice to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fire Services.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully request your honorable body to appropriate $35,000 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1121-1000-530890 city solicitor. Additional funds are needed for the remainder of fiscal year 2022 due to an increase in matters that involve litigation.
That'll go to City Property and Claims, and just so everyone can plan ahead, I'm looking to call for an executive session on May 17th, probably at 6:30, so we can have a conversation about this. Thank you.
As you are aware, your honorable body voted on March 15, 2022, to refer to the administration a request of the Attleboro Historic Commission to seek a consultant to assist in ranking the city's existing historic resources inventory that is included in the Inventory of Massachusetts Historic Commission. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $9,996 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1124-1000-530101 citywide professional services.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Council on Aging Director Melissa Tucker regarding the need to designate senior tax abatement workers as special municipal employees. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body to designate the position of senior tax abatement workers as special municipal employees under Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 1. Copies in your packet.
Special Committee on Senior Tax Abatement, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. Hegney and Director of Budget and Administration Jeremy Stull regarding the need for funds for the Police Records Room Digital Storage Capital Improvement Project. This project would hire a third party off of the state bid list, and the files would be scanned, indexed, and returned. Additionally, the garage where the records are stored now can then be converted back to its original use. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $160,000 from account 1124-1000-578390, Citywide Reserve Fund for Cannabis Impact Fee, to account 1100-210-530177, Police Continuing Appropriation Records Digitization. Digitization. Copies in your packets.
Thank you. IT and Infrastructure, please.
Sincerely, Paul Perot, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now go on to a reading of the clerk's communication.
We received a letter of complaint from Margarita Rodriguez regarding 100% Auto Wholesalers of 21 Washington Street claiming fraudulent business practice.
That'll be referred to the License Committee, please.
We received a letter from Betty Renoni of Warren Road suggesting a no vote for the proposed performance pavilion at Highland Park.
That'll be referred to the Finance Committee, please.
We received 2 more letters in support for proposed sidewalks on Reed Street from the Ouellets of Mitchell Terrace and Susan Jansen of Mitchell Terrace.
Thank you, and that'll be referred to the Public Works Committee.
I have no further communications.
Thank you. We will now go into committee reports, and starting as always with Council Waterman.
Yes. Thank you. On the docket of April 19th, 2022, I would move to approve the renewal application for scrap metal recycler / junk dealer license from Polarized New England Company LLC, DBA Schnitzer Southeast at 136 Bacon Street.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Dolan. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Only to say that I've been there twice. They have got a wonderful operation going there. It's very, very clean. They take care of not only their property, but they try to help the surrounding property, including the nearby pond. And I told both of the owners that we couldn't be more lucky to have them in the city.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And also from the docket of April 19th, 2022, I move to approve the amended application for a Class 2 license submitted by Papin Toniatis, always stumble, Automotive Group, Inc., DBA Toy Cars Motorsports, and DBA Pleasant Auto Center, 676 Pleasant Street.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Not really. We've been over this extensively, and this just combines the 2 names that they would like to carry. I believe that they're going to have a good operation.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And that concludes the business of the License Committee. I'll call for the next committee meeting at the most appropriate time.
Thank you. And Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Works Committee from the docket of April 19, 2022. I move to appropriate $11,537 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account Public Works building improvements to build a new foreman's office at 101 Lamb Street.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
None from me. We just discussed this in committee.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, that's a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman. Sorry.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I move to appropriate $26,412.20 from account DPUTNC Other Financing Sources to fund sidewalk other financing sources to install a new sidewalk on Brown Street from Mendon Road to 425 Brown Street.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Again, we just discussed in committee.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $150,000 from account sidewalk other financing uses to fund sidewalk other financing sources to also fund the Brown Street sidewalk.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
This is in conjunction with the previous motion. We discussed it in committee as well.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman, please.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $500,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund returned earnings to fund 3230 sand filter improvements to repair 3 failing sand filters.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any questions or comments?
Discussed in committee as well.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
And that's all the business I have for Public Works Committee, and call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for the Finance Committee. From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I move to transfer $25,700 from the citywide special events professional services account to the continuing appropriation citywide special events account to partially fund the July 1st, 2022 city fireworks running after a 2-year break.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
Mr. President, I said during the committee that I think that this is appropriate that the city finally take over this expense. It's been a long policy set by Judy Robbins that it should be publicly funded because she didn't want, she had a hard time finding, at that time, it was $5,000 for fireworks, right? So being the chairman for 3 years of the fireworks committee in the city of Attleboro, and putting together beer tasting parties and wine tasting parties at what used to be the Highland Country Club, and raising the money to try to get a year ahead so that we were raising money for not the year we were firing off fireworks, but the year ahead. It was a tremendous amount of work, and I thank all the volunteers that helped me out doing that. But it really should be a city function. If you're going to do fireworks, it should be paid by everybody, and not just those who are inclined to donate. So we pretty badly abused Dunkin' Donuts in the process, which it amazes me, standing outside of Dunkin' Donuts with a bucket, how many people have several dollars of change sitting in their car that they're willing to pass out the window, throw in a bucket. And I'm very grateful for that too. But there are other things I'd rather do than beg for money for fireworks. And I also think that there was a comment that I will support saying that this is not the job that should fall upon the municipal council's administrative assistant. She is got her job description to take care of the needs of the council, and it should stop there. And that I never approved of her deep involvement, willing and otherwise, to be involved in the fireworks. I'd rather see her dedicated to our needs, because it takes a lot to keep these sheets straight, and I've thanked her many times for her diligence. So, I encourage my councilors to support this measure, and that concludes my comments.
Well said. Vice President Cobus.
I'm also supportive of this and would just like to echo my thanks to Virginia for doing this in the past, and just mention that I'm going to miss sort of the competition with the Attleboro Youth Commission I think Councilor Dolan and I stood outside Dunkin' Donuts and outraised the Attleboro Youth Commission. I think we did that.
Someone drained his retirement account to do that, but that's cool.
No, I very much appreciate what the Attleboro Youth Commission has done year over year to help this, but I do think it's time that we fund it from city money.
Great. Council Bennett.
Just one question. Will the city still be accepting donations for folks who do want to make donations?
They are, yes. So to that, I know that Virginia sent the notice out through, is it the upcoming tax bill? Through the collector, but, and so they'll be getting that in the mail. I think that this 25,000, so I don't believe that the decision has been made to have the city fund it going forward. It's just given the timing in the year where we were, we needed to act quickly, and to Council Conti's point, Virginia was able to pivot off some of the other things we were doing and really make it happen. But this is a great way to start to give us some breathing room and see if this works out to continue going forward. Do you have your hand raised? Or?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
we'll go Council Angelo, Council DeSimone, did I see? Then Council Water.
Thank you, President Lucio. I do agree completely with Councilor Conti. I did get the piece in the mail today for the donations, but I was kind of curious, is that $25,700, is that covering all of it, or is that only a partial payment for partials? I mean,
Yeah, so it's partial to, as Council Conti said, when we're fundraising, there's always money for the following year. This is to help carry us over, because there's a lot that has to happen in order to execute the contract, get the details, pay for the contractual obligations such as the park, DPW, Rex, to clean up the fire detail and the police detail. Councilor DeSimone.
Yes, thank you very much, President Delisio. I appreciate your comments, because I'm okay with this for this year, but I'm inclined to think that we should examine, in conjunction with the administration, better ways and other ways to do this, instead of having, I don't want it to be a line item in the budget every year. Because I think, in 4 years, that's $100,000 or more, which could be put to other uses. So I appreciate it for this year, but I'm wondering how we could make that happen, to work with the administration on other ways to do this. If we're involved at all, I have no idea. But.
No, I appreciate your sentiments.
Yep.
Council Waterman.
My question was asked by Councilor Angelo in terms of the partial funding, but I do want to commend Virginia. She's really held this together for quite some time now.
Agreed. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Council Waterman.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delisio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to transfer $367 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to the planning overtime account to address the need for additional funds for the remainder of fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
This is pretty self-explanatory and it's contractual.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Council Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delisio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to transfer $83,000 from the citywide reserve for 53rd week to several following accounts which I read in committee, and I'd like to waive that reading.
Second.
Motion is in order. Any questions?
This too is contractual to cover the expense of the 53rd week, which I will add that we did make plans to do this, but it didn't work out the way that we had planned, and everybody wants to get paid. That concludes my comments.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman. With Councilor Waterman.
Yep, Waterman. Thank you. Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to transfer $17,600 from the citywide reserve fund for labor negotiations account to the following accounts as the clerk contract had not been submitted prior to the fiscal 2022 budget being presented, and I read those accounts during the committee meeting.
Second.
I wish to waive them.
Okay, motion is in order. Any comments, Counselor?
I have no comments. This too is contractual labor negotiation.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to hold a public hearing on April 26, 2022, relative to the administration's program year 2022 CDBG entitlement budget for the period of July 1 through 2022 through June 30th, 2023, and the program year 2022 annual action plan, and with the authorization to submit said program year 2022 CDBG entitlement and program year 2022 annual action plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development on or before May 15, 2022.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
Yeah, I want to make it clear that there's two things going on here. One is to call for a public hearing, and the second is to transfer the authorization to approve those plans from the city council to the administration, because very often we get to a very tight deadline towards the end of the reporting period, and we may or may not have council meetings, particularly with that summer schedule. So the two components are in one motion here, to have a public hearing and to transfer the approval to the administration. And that concludes my comments.
Well stated. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to approve the appropriation of $156,960.22 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to the school appropriations Medicaid account to fund the municipal sharing agreement under a memorandum of understanding with the school department regarding the revenue sharing agreement for the Medicaid reimbursement program.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
No, Mr. President, this is contractual, and it's an annual vote, and nothing's out of the ordinary. That concludes my comments.
Any additional comments or concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. And before you wrap up your committee report, I'd like to recognize Councilor DeSimone, if I may.
Thank you very much. Councilor Conti, I very much appreciated the presentation last week from Jeremy concerning the administration's upcoming plans for the budget. And I was wondering, after some discussions with our auditor and President Delicio, if there might be any merit to submitting to the administration some kind of pre-budget message, let them know where we are at the moment. I don't know if it'll be worthwhile, but I know that we had some concerns. Maybe we can head them off at the pass.
Well, I'd like to recognize the brilliance in the thought, because I think it's a very good idea. I plan on doing that myself Friday with a personal meeting with the mayor. I've already had discussions with Jeremy. And I did that as the chair of the Finance Committee, and I expressed my individual concerns with what I saw on those slides. And I don't know that a pre-budget message would have much impact, as individual meetings with councilors and the administration, particularly where there may be concerns. And I think the administration would appreciate that too, because I think the administration, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think that they would encourage council participation in the budget process, particularly since we're going to be the ones who approve the budget. And I think I've said before publicly, I don't always vote for the budget. And there was one year when I had 17 amendments to the budget. And I had more, but I gave up because I was just getting too tired. So my purpose so far is to try to get enough exposure so that taxpayers, residents, and councilors could get a much better understanding. Obviously, that had an impact with the gentleman who came during the committee of the whole, which I was very happy about. So I'm certainly willing to put together a work session in the Finance Committee meeting where all councilors can put together comments, and I can easily succinct that into not a resolution. I don't think it should be a resolution, but a memorandum to the administration. And I'm very happy to do that because I think it's more communication is better.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yes, I will make it a point in the next Finance Committee meeting to open up the door to write a memorandum to the administration on concerns with the upcoming budget.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's some wisdom in that. Thank you for raising that. I think what it does is it puts the concerns in this historic budget on the record as we head into it. Again, I think the request may be that we do that on an off night, where it can be quite long, and we do have quite a few pieces of business next week, because we have the special meeting as well as a couple public hearings.
Well, this is April 19th, so we could do it in a couple pieces.
Sure.
You know, we could start it next week, and we could finish it in 3 weeks.
Just want to make sure we have enough time and we're being respectful of all the other committees.
So let me try it and open it up for like a half an hour and put a cap on a 30-minute, and then
Perfect.
try to finish it up in 3 weeks.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. So that concludes the business that the Finance Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to our meeting in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Counselor Conti. Counselor Bennett.
Thank you. Reporting for Transportation and Traffic Committee, one motion for this evening. I move to hold a public hearing on May 17th, 2022 regarding the placement of a permanent speed hump on both May Street and Rocklawn Avenue per City Ordinance Section 10-4, speed humps.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any questions? Or comments, rather?
No additional comments.
Seeing any comments from the council? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business of Transportation and Traffic Committee. I request the meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Vice President Cobus.
Thank you. Reporting for the IT and Infrastructure Committee from the docket of April 12th, 2022. I entertain a motion to appropriate $2,615 from account undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government to city clerk professional services account to install network drops in the clerk's office to enhance the payment process for residents.
Do we have a
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Motion is in order.
This is to install a couple network drops so that we can eventually improve the ability to pay at the clerk's office. I spoke to Bill Lennox about it, and the one question I had for him was, now that we have Wi-Fi down here on the first floor, why are we installing more network drops? But the Wi-Fi is completely separate from the city network, and so therefore we need these network drops.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, this requires a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 12th, 2022, I entertain a motion to appropriate $39,179 from account undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government to police computer equipment account to replace the computer server which runs the police department's CAD RMS software and transfer files.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. Motion is in order.
We discussed this in committee last week. One of the questions that Councilor Conti asked was regarding the backup system for this. And again, this is to replace the server that does the dispatch for the police department. And that system is backed up onto the backup servers that we have, as is everything else. It's backed up both locally and offsite.
And that system's on their generator, emergency generator.
I believe so. I'm not sure. I know the offsite is somewhere else and on a different
I'll
thing.
support the measure.
Yeah. I don't know if it's on the generator or not.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Council Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
That concludes the business for the IT and Infrastructure Committee, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. And would you like to report for zoning and land use, please?
Sure. Thank you. Reporting for the Zoning and Land Use Committee. From the docket of April 5th, 2022, I move to approve the mayor's request to accept the generous donation to the city of Attleboro of $1,303,600 from the Federal Transit Administration to be transferred to the Greater Attleboro-Taunton Regional Transit Authority related to transportation projects improving the transit-oriented development district.
Second.
Thank you, Council Dolan. Motion is in order. Any comments?
And we just had Catherine Fierick and Gary Arazian here to talk about this measure. I encourage people to support it. I was personally on the fence about it because of the matching $325,000 that we will be voting on next. I was a little bit hesitant to approve $300,000 for this work, despite the $1.3 million that we're receiving. But I think it's appropriate. We'll get sidewalks on 4th Street, that pedestrian bridge, a number of the flashing crosswalks, in addition to the study that Catherine Fierick was talking about for the parking structure. So I agree that we need to close the checkbook and pump the brakes a little bit on some of the spending, but unfortunately, I think this is a great opportunity and we should take advantage of it. That concludes my comments.
Thank you for those comments. Any additional questions or comments? Council Conti?
So someone here has said it before that you can't stop progress, or if you stop growing, you're dying. And I don't remember who said it, but I suspect it was Councilor DeSimone.
Sounds like me.
This transit-oriented district, which I voted against in the very beginning, turned out to be basically the throbbing heart of the city. Based on what he just said, where the density is going from 10 families per acre to 50, it's a 500% increase, not a 50% increase. The density in that 50-acre parcel is going to be immense. But they can walk to the train station, and that's the whole point of the city. I got it. And the state is pushing this. This isn't really a Gary Arazian idea, even though I think the transit-oriented district was a mass development idea. The whole process is incredibly lengthy, complex, and expensive. $1 million is a drop in the bucket compared to the money that, I think they spent $15 million getting that whole park laid out in the Rupert Robbins Parkway. I think 15 to 17 million, I don't remember which, but it was a lot of money. The parking garage is, with the MBTA involved, is going to be very protracted. So, yes, 325,000, and I'm combining the two motions together because I thought I'd address it on this one, then I don't have to say anything on the next one. The point is that mass development and the city planner and the economic development director are together on a long-term plan for that transit-oriented district. It's not like they're trying to find things out as they go. They know where they're going. And because of that, I'm very comfortable with the $300,000 contribution because it's a long, complicated process. And If I thought that they were fumbling, I'd vote against it. That would be consistent with my behavior of the past. So that concludes my comments.
I agree with your comments, Counselor.
Here, here.
Yeah, what I would add is the TOD is growing, and the TOD is going to encourage foot traffic, which is going to encourage and spark need for different businesses. And, you know, people ask me, what's like, well, if you were starting, what would you start? Butcher, baker, candlestick maker. Get them all down there, you know. But I think the 325,900, it's a requirement in order for the grant. So it's part and parcel, but I appreciate your comments, Vice President. Any other questions or comments on this? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 5th, 2022, I move to appropriate $325,900 from undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to Fund 3569 TOD GATRA as the FTA grant requires matching funds.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. Motion is in order. Any comments?
It's the matching part of the previous item.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of March 15th, 2022, I move to approve the following public way: to lay out Ashton Court as a public way, length of 1,102.67 feet from Station 0 to Station 11 plus 02.67, and accept said way in any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all as shown as a plan and profile entitled Road Acceptance Plan of Ashton Court.
We'll waive the rest of the reading.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. Motion is in order.
We had a public hearing for this. There wasn't anybody there, but I encourage people to move forward with this.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business of the Zoning and Land Use Committee. I call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you for covering for Council Holmes today.
Of course.
Let's see, city property and claims. I don't believe they're bringing anything out. Who's the vice on that? Mike, do you mind just,
Yeah, City and Property and Claims is canceled for tonight, and we call for a meeting next week at 6:55.
thank you. Councilor Angelo.
All right, thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for Personal Veterans and Human Services Committee, we have 5 items tonight. From the docket of April 19th, 2022, I move to approve the in-kind services by Health Department, approve any further grant amendments regarding the awarded funds from the Massachusetts Association of Healthy Board, Public Health Excellence, grant for shared services in the amount of $300,000 annually for the remainder of this fiscal year through June 30th, 2033.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments or concerns?
Discuss this in committee, and this is a great thing, and encourage everybody to vote for this.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Conti.
So, Councilor Angelo, I'm sorry I missed this, and maybe it's because you had an early committee meeting. But is this saying that we're going to get $300,000 every year until 2033 for our health department?
That's the way I understood it.
Wow.
This is being shared with about 6 other communities as well.
That's big. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor
And
Waterman.
For those who weren't at the committee meeting, I would also add, I found out today that not only will it be shared with North Attleboro, Taunton, Rehoboth, Dighton, Berkeley, and us. And we are going to be sharing a community health educator. We're going to be sharing a health inspector, and we're going to be sharing a grant coordinator. So it's an interesting theory, and it's happening all over the state in clusters of half a dozen towns or cities together.
Thank you, Council Waterman. Any other questions or comments? Council Bennett?
Just a question for clarification, is this 300,000 annually shared among all those communities, or is this just?
That's 300,000 just for us.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to transfer $612 from the account Budget Administration Salaries to Budget Administration Staff Development to reimburse a new clerical employee for a Mass Certified Public Purchasing Official course.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We just discussed this in committee meeting, and this is a wonderful thing.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, this requires a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan? Oops. I'm going to note that Ms. Dolan is not here. Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to appropriate $900 from the account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account veterans maintenance of vehicles to replace a windshield on a vehicle used for veteran transport.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We discussed this in committee.
Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to approve the following reappointment for position for the term as indicated. Rosa Lopes, Cultural Council, expires February 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We discussed this in committee. We're lucky to have Rosa for another 3 years.
Okay. Any additional comments? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, from the docket of April 19, 2022, I move to approve the generous donation of the Veterans Office of $40 in Stop and Shop gift cards for an anonymous donor as part of Random Act of Kindness to celebrate Gus and honor World Down Syndrome Day in March.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order.
Just as we talked about this committee, this is wonderful. This is great. We love this, and this is great. That's all my comments.
Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, this also requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
That concludes business of Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, and I call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone.
Alrighty. Reporting for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I have one item to bring forward this evening from the docket of April 19th, 2022. I move to transfer $160 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Election Supplies Office to purchase a new office chair.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
None needed.
Okay. Any additional? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business of this committee for this evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Blair.
Reporting for Public Safety Emergency Management. I have no business to bring forward this evening, but I'd like to call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Blair. Councilor Conti for the Senior Special Committee on Tax Abatement.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of December 21st, 2021, I move to adopt a senior means tested exemption by way of a special act as a way of relieving some of the property tax burden on certain qualifying Attleboro residents. And I'd like to waive the reading.
Second.
So waived.
Thank you. But I would like to explain what we're talking about, because it's very, very important. It's very, very expensive, and it's very complicated. The senior means tested exemption is a special legislation that has to be approved by the Senate and House of Representatives before Attleboro can enact it. And what it does is allows seniors who have gone through the circuit breaker process in their income tax with the state to qualify for an exemption in the city of Attleboro under certain conditions. And those conditions are they have to own their house for 10 plus years, they have to be over 65 years old, they can't have an exemption more than 50% of their taxes, and there's a lot of other complexities that go into it that I'm not going to recant, because it could be 2 years before this becomes something that a future council can approve. The impact on the city of Attleboro is that the assessor's overlay account is going to have to be enlarged, because all of these exemptions come out of her overlay account, which she has managed minimally up to now. And the city will only have this senior means tested program for 3 years unless a future council reenacts it again. So it has a sunset legislation. And the reason why that sunset legislation is there is because it can get extremely expensive. And so it gives the city an opportunity to give it a try, see how it flies, and see whether or not it can manage it. And if it can't, then it's got to go back to what we're doing now. And so that, I think, explains it pretty well, and that concludes my comments. But I'll take any questions.
Any, Council Bennett?
I do have one question. In one of the, taking a look back through this past week as to the requirements, one of the requirements is that the applicant taxpayer, or at least one of the joint applicants, has been domiciled and owned a residential unit of real property in the city for at least 10 consecutive years prior to filing the application for the exemption. What it doesn't specify is that it be the parcel necessarily that they're currently residing in when they apply. Is that your understanding as well, or should this be intended to apply only if they've owned that exact parcel for 10 years?
It's my understanding that is the parcel that they're looking for the exemption on. Because you could own several parcels of land in the city that are minimal and very lightly taxed, and then purchase a house and ask for a deduction on that house, and that would not be warranted. And there is a safety measure built into this because every application is reviewed. So I think we're good for now to let this go through to the council, to go up to the state legislature. And when it comes time for the council to approve this measure following Senate and House approval for it to be enacted, then I think the assessor is going to need to put on a presentation of exactly what she forecasts the expenses are going to be and what the specific details are in the process. Does that relax you?
A little. I think there's going to be confusion here because I think it's a residential requirement and not necessarily an ownership requirement for that particular piece. So if we could get clarification on that prior to this coming for approval, I think that would be helpful.
I can only answer that everything in assessing is complicated.
Absolutely. Understood. Thank you.
Council Waterman?
Yes, this is also for you, Richard. Two questions. Yes, they have to be 65 or older, but if you have a spouse that's 60 and older, then the couple can qualify. Am I correct on that one?
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of complexities to this that I just...
Well, I'm trying to
skipped over.
save the senior center from a raft of calls tomorrow. And the other question is, I wouldn't guess that everybody would understand what the word exemption means. Can you spell that out a little clearer?
Yeah, a lot of people confuse exemptions with abatements.
Yep.
And it happens every day. But the seniors listening to this now need to understand that the council is trying to enact a strong measure that gives people who need relief from their real estate property taxes to stay in their homes. This legislation is much, much more capable of doing that than the legislation we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Because the exemptions, which is the amount of money that you take off of your tax bill, is significantly greater. I mean, more than 100%, it's more like 500% higher than what people can get, even higher than that, depending on what your income is. And the latitudes for the state are much, much, much more wide open than what is currently. They're twice as open. So right now, to qualify an exemption, I think it's $28,636, and that may not be right. But with the state circuit breaker, it's $53,800 and change. So you see the door is open for a much broader population in the seniors. And they won't fully understand the magnitude of how important this legislation is until after the Senate and the House pass it, and we bring it down here and have a public meeting so that everybody can be educated. But this is landmark legislation for Attleboro, and it's expensive.
Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, President Dillon. I'll keep it brief. So I want to thank you and the assessors' work on this. I'm happy that this is moving forward. I would remind everybody it's going to be several months at least before we get back. And to follow up on your point, Councilor Waterman's point, that may be enough time to spread information about the program to the Council of Aging through the assessor and other outreach campaigns so that, number one, people understand, and number two, if they qualify, they can do whatever they need to do to get themselves the benefit of this program if and when it comes to light.
To follow up on your comments, if I may, Mr. President, I see in tonight's mayor's communication that the Council on Aging Director is looking to add some senior tax advisors as employees of the city. And I suspect that she's going to get a call from me tomorrow morning, but I suspect that this is what she's thinking about. And what Councilor Waterman just said is that, everybody's going to be racing to the door and the door's not open yet. So Melissa and I will have a conversation about this, and it'll be an in-depth conversation. I'm sure she's well-versed and understands completely what this is. And you're right, there needs to be some kind of communication, which would be the newsletter, explaining what's going on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very good, thanks for the clarification. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what Councilor Bennett said, and I agree. I think that Section 2(4) definitely should have some type of explanation as far as the applicant taxpayer. So I agree with, I think it's not clear, and I think just saying that it's complicated isn't really sufficient.
Well, Councilor, then...
So it's Section 2.
Yeah.
Councilor Conti, if you might.
So then the thing to do, Councilor, is to make a motion to amend the motion at this time.
Well, no, I don't have an amendment. I don't have anything. I just think the way it's worded, the applicant, as Councilor Bennett said, the applicant taxpayer, or at least one of the joint applicants, has been domiciled and owned a residential unit of real property in the city of Attleboro for at least 10 consecutive years, because everything before it and after it says the qualifying parcel.
Right.
So I just feel like it's a little...
Well, the qualifying parcel is their residence.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about...
I'll recognize Councilor DeSimone.
If I may, when I drafted this, I literally adopted it from another municipality who had used it. This is boilerplate language, number one. Number two, this has been reviewed, I would imagine, thoroughly by our assessor. So I appreciate your comments. I actually don't think that's an issue. I think it's defined in subsection 2, 1, 2, and 3. But I would suggest to you that the assessor has gone over this pretty thoroughly, and it's boilerplate language, so I don't know.
I'd like to just add, if I could just add here, I agree with Councilor Dolan here. The qualifying parcel is very clear in the above paragraphs. I think that particular section that says owned a residential unit of real property is just intended to be a residential requirement, that you had lived and owned some property in Attleboro prior to applying. But for all other purposes, when you're applying, in the year that you're applying, it's the qualifying parcel that matters. So you could be living in and owning a condo, for example, for 10 years in Attleboro, and then move to a single residence home. And in the year of the application, that's your domicile. And that's the qualifying parcel for purposes of determining your eligibility. So I just wanted to clarify that the language is different there, and I don't think that that is unintentional. I do think that that is intentional. It is just a residential requirement in that particular section.
So, Mr. President, if I may, we've got two counselors that are a little uncomfortable here, and there's only 9 of us here tonight, so I'm going to file a charter objection, just to put this whole thing on hold, so that we can resolve this until the next meeting.
Okay, so that, the charter objection ends all discussion. So there will be no more discussion this evening. We'll have to take that up at the next regular meeting on May 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of September 18th, I move to strike the following: create an elderly and disabled taxation aid fund.
Second.
Go ahead.
Second.
No,
I'm sorry.
I think Councilor Dolan seconded.
Second.
So,
Counselor,
motion's in order.
I got that. Motion's in order. Give me 1 second, folks. Okay, Counselor Dolan, thank you.
So the reason why I have this motion to strike is because coming up next is the Massachusetts general law to establish an elderly and disabled taxation fund. So I'm striking it now so that we can create it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of September 18th, 2018, I move to adopt the local option defined in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3D, thereby establishing aid to elderly and disabled through the taxation fund via a voluntary checkoff donations, and I'd like to waive the reading. Thank you.
Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, lots of comments. I heard from Carolyn Lyons, who was the treasurer collector for the city of Framingham. And she told me that for the tax relief fund, they usually get around $5,000 to $5,500 per year. And we have about 12 residents who apply. So each year, we award about $400 to $450 per year. Previously, I reported that in the town of Seekonk, I spoke with Chairman of the Board of Assessors, Paul Buckley, who said that they received a one-time donation as a bequest of an estate of $20,000, which put them right into the business, but that they receive annually more money than they disperse. So the account in Seekonk, as it is in Framingham, is up and running and very healthy. I'd like to explain to the public and to the taxpayers what this is. And this is a fund that is being established in the city of Attleboro, which is created by people making a donation at the time they're paying their real estate tax bill. That is 503c3 tax deductible. So if they are looking for a tax deduction, or if they're looking to make a big donation, they could donate to this elderly and disabled taxation fund annually or any time throughout the year for a tax deduction. And the money comes into a special account set up by Deb Gould. And it's a committee is assigned by the mayor that would have the treasurer, the assessor, and 3 members of the public. And they would be in charge of, that commission would be in charge of creating an application for people to apply for this fund. And the fund is intended to be for people who have exhausted all other measures to try to save their home, stay living in their home. So they've gone through the senior exemption, they've gone through veterans exemptions, they've gone through everything they could. They've looked at reverse mortgages, and still they're in trouble. That's what this fund is for. The fund would carry its balance from year to year to year. Some years it may not give any, some years it might give a lot or a little. And the application would be readily available from the clerk's office or the assessor's office, and it'll be online, it'll be on the website. The fund, I believe, in the city of Attleboro will be successful, because I believe that there is a population here that has the wealth to be able to make the donation, that could create the fund, and I believe that the mayor will find 3 good people to administer the commission, and I have faith that this is going to be a very successful program and well serve that population in our city, and that concludes my comments.
Any other comments on this motion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of September 18, 2018, I move to strike the following, that the City of Attleboro create a local property tax freeze program that will bar property tax increases for certain seniors and other eligible populations who are on fixed income and most affected by an increase in taxes.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order.
The city solicitor sent a nice letter saying you could do this if you wanted to freeze everybody's taxes. But it's unconstitutional to freeze them just for one protected class. So that's that, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions on this? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. There is no old business. There are two pieces of new business. Actually, you need to, I cut you off there, Councilor.
That's okay, I cut you off all the time.
I apologize.
That's all the business that the Special Committee on Tax Abatement review has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Now, there's still no old business, and we still have two pieces of new business. So I will recognize Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, President Delicio. Do you want me to read the whole thing or not tonight? I'm fine either way. I don't know what you need.
I'd read the whole thing.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I move the following be recommended for study and recommendation to amend Section 2-8.2 of the revised ordinances as follows. Powers and duties. A, the Municipal Building Commission, under the direction and control of the mayor, shall be responsible for supervision of the design and construction of municipal building projects in the areas of preparing building and site design plans and specifications and obtaining bids for the construction, remodeling, alteration, or renovation, including equipping and furnishing of municipal buildings. B, for projects involving construction of new school buildings, the commission shall be responsible for the preparation of building and site design plans and specifications consistent with the educational specifications provided to the commission by the school committee. After approval by the school committee of said buildings and site design plans and specifications insofar as they affect educational specifications, the commission shall take all necessary steps to construct the school buildings or additions thereto accordingly. C, the commission shall also advise the mayor in the development of a long-term capital plan for municipal buildings, including plans for repurposing, leasing, or selling of municipal buildings. D, the commission shall annually, in the month of January, make a report in writing to the mayor and the municipal council, which report shall include a brief statement describing the current condition and maintenance needs of all municipal buildings.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order.
Thank you, President. So briefly, Council Reynolds and I, what we're trying to do here is it pertains mostly to some of the issues before the council now concerning the Council of Aging and what to do with the one we have, where to put a new one, the old high school, the academy building, and how the city evaluates, maintains, and plans for the future use and reuse of our municipal buildings. There's a lot to be said for new construction, but environmentally speaking, and also I think to some degree possibly cost savings, there's a large argument to be made for reusing buildings instead of building new. So what we're trying to do here is establish some kind of maintenance protocol with regular kind of updates on the state of the buildings, if you will. And I know, Councilor Conti, if I may, President Lucio, we mentioned the phrase long-term capital plan is in there, and I do not mean to step on your toes. So if that's something we need to talk about, I'm willing to, it's open to discussion. Please know that I understand that you may have concerns about that. But the goal here, President Delicio and my fellow councilors, is just to have a better understanding of the state of the buildings, particularly as it pertains to future use, so that we're not just always, as Council Reynolds says, why are we building new? This is along that lines.
Great.
So thank you.
No, I appreciate the business. I will refer that to the Ordinance, Elections, Legislative Matters Committee as well as the administration.
Thank you.
And for the next piece, any other comments? This will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And for the last piece, I recognize Councilor Conti.
I move the following be recommended for further study and recommendation, that the City of Attleboro adopt Massachusetts Police Pay Incentive Program, the Quinn Bill, as follows. Municipal police career incentive reimbursements. For police career incentives to reimburse cities and towns for career incentive salary increases for police officers, provided, however, that regular full-time members of municipal police departments hired on or after July 1st, 2009 shall not be eligible to participate in the career incentive pay program established pursuant to Section 108L of Chapter 41 of the General Laws. Provided further that any current regular full-time member of a municipal police department who has not started accumulating points pursuant to said Section 108L of said Chapter 41 of the General Laws as of September 1, 2009, shall not be eligible to participate in the career incentive pay program established pursuant to said Section 108L of said Chapter 41 of the General Laws, and provided further that any current regular full-time member of a municipal police department who has begun to accumulate points pursuant to said Section 108 of said Chapter 41 of the General Laws as of September 1st, 2009, shall be allowed to accumulate the maximum number of points permissible pursuant to said Section 108L of said Chapter 41 of General Laws. The Quinn Bill, more formally known as the Police Career Incentive Pay Program, was enacted by the Massachusetts Legislature in 1970 in an effort to encourage police officers to earn degrees in criminal justice.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order.
I want to tell you that the city of Attleboro enacted the Quinn Bill when it first came out in 1970 because the state was footing the bill. And the state was footing the bill because the state felt that municipalities would be better served by communities who had higher educated police force. I spoke with the chief, Higney, in this matter on April 15th, tax day. And I said, how much is it going to cost? And he said, it depends on the number of officers who have a college education, which is a BA, an AD, and an MA. But he assumes it to be an additional $100,000. The college education line item is budgeted in fiscal year 2022. So we're already starting down this road in this year's budget. He says, I know the mayor would support this. He's told me they would prefer having college-educated police force. I put this in as new business because I would like to see us return to the Quinn Bill in the city of Attleboro, because I strongly believe that a highly educated police force benefits the residents of the city of Attleboro. This makes Attleboro better. And for $100,000, yes, it's a big number, but this is a big impact. This is our police force. This is public safety. This is where we really need to invest in the people in our force. So we'll have more conversations about that. That'll conclude my comments for now, but I do hope that this enters into a formal motion.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone.
Briefly, I appreciate the business. I don't know where we're going to come out on this, but in light of the challenges facing Attleboro Police Department and others to attract and retain new recruits, if this helps at all, and in some ways it dovetails with the special act we send up to help the chief attract new, I'm all in if it does that. Again, reserving the right to change my mind with other information, but I'm excited to talk about it. Thank you, Councilor Conti.
Thank you.
So that was part of the conversation, that it started with, as I said when Jeremy was speaking, that I would send an email to both the fire chief and the police chief as to what was the issues with getting people to work in Attleboro. This is the result of the conversation with the police chief. In 2 weeks, you're going to see the result of the conversation with the fire chief, with new business that's coming out then. Both chiefs, Higney and LaChance, said, get rid of civil service and you are going to eliminate a big roadblock. So we've already done that. We've already done what we can do to do that. We're just waiting for the wheels to spin on Beacon Hill. But in the meantime, this can take us a long way while that's coming along. And the measure that you're going to see in 2 weeks is a mirror of this for the police department, but it's not education, it's a whole other thing.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. This will be assigned to Public Safety and Emergency Management.
Thank you.
That is all the business we have for tonight, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:13.